I have 20 years of experience of building practical AI products. And I sum them all up by saying, you only need to know one thing. AI can see a hair from a mile, but can miss a tree in front of it. If you understand that, you can build AI products. If you don't understand that, you'll get excited by the hair from a mile, but you will miss everything else.
And welcome to the Startup Innovators Podcast, where we look at some of the hottest companies on the planet, and we're scouring the world for cool companies. And today we've got SysAid, and I'm so excited. We've got Avi Kedmi in Israel to talk about a very exciting company that's really changing the way companies manage their internal infrastructure and crises using AI and agentic agents. Avi, it's so great to have you today in the house. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for hosting me.
Well, thank you. It's good evening to you in Israel and good morning to me here in California. So
Indeed.
I want to start off by just kind of a little fictional story here. And so for anybody watching this before we get going, just imagine this for a minute. You're asleep, or CEO or founder of a company, or we're running a company. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. Your phone buzzes. 147 employees just got locked out of everything. Their apps, their email, they have no tools. Their VPNs are all shut down. Europe, big customer market's going to be waking up in 20 minutes. That entrepreneurial panic is setting in. What do we do? You're on the verge of disaster. But then nothing happens. Literally nothing happens at all. And why? Because SysAid's agentic agents identified and diagnosed the problem without you even knowing about it. They actually executed the fix autonomously. They left a complete audit trail before anyone even got out of bed. And Avi, this is happening kind of all the time. And it feels like we've entered kind of a new world. What do you think about that?
Wow. I didn't anticipate that of a start of a story. Yeah, things that were far-fetched in the past are now possible. I think
Yeah.
we'll. I think that your example is some sort of a lot of the day-to-day of companies. Right? They're still suffering for basic things like people are unlocked or cannot go through the VPN or something happened. And then you have an employee for about 2 hours, 5 hours, 2 days that's locked and is not productive. Yeah, it's a good example of what we do with our client.
That's amazing. And we're going to dig deep into that because we're on we're literally on the precipice of a transformation and it's happening everywhere and it's going to happen behind the scenes. I like to start with a quick intro just because people who've never heard of you personally. So I'm going to roll with that really quickly and then we'll kind of jump into the conversation. All right. Avi Kedmi, you are the CEO of SysAid, an Israeli venture-backed company that's leading the shift from traditional ticketing to autonomous AI-powered service delivery, not just in IT, but across every internal team that keeps the company running. Since taking the role on in 2023, SysAid has served over 5,000 organizations worldwide, earned recognition from Gartner as an emerging leader in AI-powered knowledge management. And you guys have doubled down on building tools that are able to actually execute rather than just react. Before SysAid, you spent over a decade helping scale LivePerson, leading product, GTM, go-to-market ops, and customer success. And before that, amongst many other things, you were the founder, CEO, and CTO of Amadesa, which was actually sold to LivePerson. So there's that growth sequence that we're going to see there. Avi, you received your BA in computer science from Reichman University, and you have an MBA from my alma mater as well, Kellogg School of Business at Northwestern University. So again, it's great to have you. As we had mentioned, I remember Dean Jacobs back at the time having lunch with him when we were at Kellogg, who was actively working, it was his baby, to establish this Kellogg relationship with Israel. And he's now a pass, but he was a great man. And I love being part of those discussions and seeing so many great Israeli entrepreneurs that joined that program and have now developed great companies. So very cool.
I think I remember also meeting him, and I was really impressed. I can tell the
Yeah,
story that I heard from him.
sure.
I remember he said in one of his speeches, he said that a lot of time people are doing things where they're waiting for people to tap their back, some sort of to tap their back, some sort of feel that they recognize. He talked about how this is not the way to lead people. So yeah, it's good intro. I'd say my career is 27 years in B2B SaaS, but most of it I was in like 2 or 3 places, and I am trying to be consistent. Where I go to, I stay until it's big.
Yeah, I noticed that, and so as someone that's run a, executive recruiting firm for 25 years, even in the Silicon Valley where people do a lot of startups, you do see jumpiness. They join a company, the company gets funded or it doesn't, or gets acquired very quickly. But for like high level leaders like CEOs, when the board brings us in, one of the things they look for is, they do still look for your tenure at the companies. Because if you stay a long time, and you progressively kind of move up the chain, or you're there for a while, you have to be doing something right. These boards, when they invest a lot of money, they want to see results. And so we look very favorable upon CEOs that can stay for a long time, weather the storms, make the pivots. Pivoting is a big issue, and change that kind of course. So that's to me, that's always a sign of a good leader. I'd love to start off with a kind of a big picture question. I always approach this as a layperson, as if I don't know a lot or the audience doesn't know a lot. But I mean, from your perspective, let's just talk big picture. Like, what are agentic agents? What is this new wave of agentic AI that people hear about all the time?
Okay, fair enough. Let's start talk about first of all, what is AI, right? Because people use that term. Also, Google 20 years ago, when they did the search, they had a lot of predictive modeling, right? To know what's the right index to pull at that millisecond. So I think AI is some sort of or form of something that is doing things for you or on your behalf, and it's doing it in a way that you trust what it's doing, right? Whether it's doing things to mimic what you've done or it's doing some other job that someone else should have done. But it is something that you're happy with the results that it brings to you. Okay. Let's wrap it for a second like that. Now, when you talk about agentic, the revolution in agentic is that in the past, people used to say, when you build a startup, you say, ideas are free. What is idea? Everybody can bring an idea. That would be a great idea. But the execution is the hard part. Go convince someone to invest, go get 10 people to hire, etc., and execute on it. The agentic is bringing a new era. This is about your creativity with unlimited resources. That's it's unimaginable, but there's no more the need to talk about resources. Now, some of the things I talk that they're today, and some of them are a bit futuristic. Of course, not everything is solved fully yet. But the agentic basically says you are in a need of something for like something that to be done for you or on your behalf or whatever it is. And the agentic will write code to make that happen for you. Writing code is very different than just giving a quick answer in ChatGPT. And writing code means that there's no limit to what's possible between
Right.
planning and building software and writing a letter and sending it over physically to someone, etc., etc. So that world of agentic is the disruption that's happening now. I want to say one more word about the agentic and generally about where we are with AI today. AI today is not blocked by technology. What's going on with agentic is what's preventing it to really storm is the trust,
Right.
right? We live in the world of employee experience. When employee has a problem, the agentic today that SysAid has, in 90% of the cases, can solve completely what it needs. But for that to happen, the IT leader needs to give us access to Office 365, needs to give us access to all the licenses, needs to give us access, and I can go on and on and on and on. And that's where we are today. That the limit is the trust, is the journey with AI to allow it to have enough guardrails for it to be safe.
So people are concerned, obviously, it can write code continuously, as I said, as we sleep. But is it doing what we want it to do? And do we believe that, again, do we have that trust in the system?
Yeah. So I have this saying for many years that I say, my experience with AI is 20 years. I had my startup 7 years, which was a predictive modeling algorithm that we've built. Then 11 years at LivePerson, which was the whole world of natural language processing and conversational AI. So I have 20 years of experience of building practical AI products. And I sum them all up by saying, you only need to know one thing, which is
Okay.
AI can see a hair from a mile, but can miss a tree in front of it. If you understand that, you can build AI products. If you don't understand that, you'll get excited by the hair from a mile, but you will miss everything else that it will do a mistake. So, and with that statement, that's our focus at SysAid, basically to say, whatever you do with our AI or whatever it does to you, everything is open, monitored, fine-tuned. Everything is fully transparent, prompt, everything, because I believe that's the way to build trust.
Well, that's pretty amazing. I love that statement. I've never heard it like pitched that way, but I think about it, that is the truth, right? We're so fascinated by these things it can do. And then there's something so blatant right in front of us that's frustrating. And I think we're all feeling that right now. So I hope in the future it'll be different. It'll see a hair from a mile away and it'll see everything right in front of you as well, microscopically. We hope so. It's evolving so quickly. Before we get into it, let's go back for a minute in time to LivePerson. You're there for a long time, and I know that had to do with chatbots and support for customers. What were some of the limitations that you saw developing with these chatbots that you took that knowledge and when you came to SysAid, that helped reshape where you wanted to take the company using AI in the modern era?
Early days of the chatbots, they were mostly built through some sort of rule-based engines, right? And using a lot of sample data in order to be able to know when someone asks for something or gives an answer, what do we think? What's the context? What's the answer means, right? And one of the big lesson learned I had there is that these rule engines, they're surviving for like 3 months. And after 3 months, they're not manageable and it's a nightmare. And actually, it's not managed. So the expectation for chatbots to be able to have someone that manage all the if and else, if you ask about security, then do that. If you are asking about your VPN, then it's not maintainable. So this whole rule base is now with generative AI is much smarter with RAG models and a lot of other aspects to make it more efficient. And that was like one of the biggest lessons. Pre-Gen AI, the best chatbot, it could take you 2 minutes, you break it, right?
Yeah.
And today, if you build it correctly, you can sometimes break it, but it will take you a long time, like 20, 30 minutes until you find an angle to go in and ask the question differently.
Yeah. We've all had the frustration where we try to do tech support. We're using chatbots. Everybody's had that information, and for me, most of the time, it always, even today, it still ends up with me putting in something saying, "Can I speak to a live agent?" But I love this idea of these AI agents that can rather than just provide you information back, they can execute upon that. I could see that one day. Is that something that you're seeing today that's happening a lot
Yes,
with
yes,
companies
yes.
internally? Yeah. They don't want to hire resources that they want to evolve.
I think that so I think there's few worlds of where AI play, and there's also easy worlds and there's more difficult worlds. I think customer support there's a it's more challenging. You can do reduction of forces there, but generally it's more challenging because the mistake of a bad answer can cost a lot to that company selling, right? But where we play, which is the employee experience, IT service desk, HR service desk, finance service desk, there are all internal people. That's one. So the mistake is much smaller. And two is that the whole data and all connectivity is like a closed box. Overall, I will tell you a secret. We do not have a lot of hallucination almost at all in our platform because the data exists within the organization enough to give you the right answer. Now, when we talk about AI agents, the challenge with AI agents is that ChatGPT arrived and it said to people, just like Google said, you invest 2 seconds to write something, in 200 milliseconds, you got the answer. You got excited. I'm lazy.
Right.
Just write 2 words. I get it. ChatGPT came in and did the same. It said, write me a job description of a head of sales. Boom, you got it. It looks great. You invested 10 seconds and they saved you 2 hours. It's not like that. Agentic, it requires a bit more. you want to save 6 months of work, you need to invest a week. And a week is not 2 seconds. So AI agents, it's about talking to the machine to build the AI agent for your specific use case and working on iterating it until you figure out that that's working for you. And what you're seeing is that change from 2 seconds to a week is not easy for a lot of people because there's a misexpectation.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me a couple examples, if you wouldn't mind, of kind of big problems that you were solving for companies. So we could kind of tell the story so we could visualize the intro experience I talked about, but some real issues where this is happening so people can understand what it is that you really do conceptually.
Sure. So someone wakes up in the morning, comes to his London office, and it's freezing, right? And the heater doesn't work. Goes to the portal, opens a ticket, and say, "Hey, freezing here. It's 8 a.m. What's going on?" Someone answers him, "Hey, by the way, we're aware of it. There is a team on it." Right? That's it. 10
That's it.
seconds after, a new person comes to the office. Guess what? He's freezing also. The second person, the AI will already answer, and the ticket will not be open.
Gotcha.
Example, a small one, take a scale of 100 people coming together to the office, creating 100 tickets, or
Right.
AI, it's really artificial intelligence. The AI works in a way that everything that's happening is now sorted, rugged, and refreshed correctly. So answers that come in impact the question after. So that's a simple example, right? Two, there's a lot of knowledge that's very old. Like 2 years ago, someone solved, when we think about companies, we think about like startups where
Right.
everything is like cloud, everything is like high end, using the best software. Healthcare, education, industrial, they're in the on-prem era. I don't want to tell
Yeah.
you, I'm gonna give it. They're still 70% on-prem with like
That's
five
crazy.
companies that someone purchased 20 years ago with Windows servers not patched. And now there's a downtime and who knows what to do, right? AI, in this case, finds these 5, 10 tickets 2 years, 4 years ago, connects the story together, and then in 2 seconds bring you back an answer. Hey, by the way, this was solved in the past by that, 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 that. And here is the person that did it 2 years ago. Maybe you want to connect him to the conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
That is big, right? And I can give you a lot. I'll give you another story.
Let's talk about finance too. I want to get an example on finance because I know you're moving away from just IT into all these other operations.
Yeah. Most companies have issues with expenses. It's unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. 2026, it's still a nightmare to put your expense report and to know when it's coming, etc. And people are traveling a lot, right? But you have an expense system. It has an API. So if you connect AI agent for the 2, 3 main use cases of when am I getting paid, here is what I want to report, here's the image, etc., you now can provide to your main organization chatbot, whether it's in MS Teams or Slack or a portal or email, doesn't matter. The same engine knows to activate an AI agent, right? So you just send an email and say, here's a screenshot of my expense and just add it, right? You would expect at that point that it will understand it, activate an AI agent that connects to the expense system, and put it in. So these are the things you're starting to see more and more within the finance organization.
Like on the IT side, how do you this reminds me of like the old, security software where people would be trying to sell an upgrade or change something and say, "We don't really have a security problem." Well, you don't have a security problem because the software has been fixing it for you. How do you once you implement these solutions, how do you provide feedback back to the clients where they know, "Hey, we haven't had all these problems because the agents have been working behind the scenes to fix them." So they don't feel the crisis, they don't feel the urgency because it's being taken care of in real time. Is there a reporting system that says, "Crisis be averted," right? Those 5 people tried to check in and it was resolved within, 10 minutes. How does that work?
Like, first, this is exactly it. This is the story of the hair and in front of you of AI.
Yeah.
This is exactly it. Everything that the AI does, we invest a lot more features, capabilities around transparency and guardrails than we do around other aspects exactly because of that. So they would know when did the AI kick in, why did he make that tip, but what are the use cases, for example, related to that. So let's say you have an employee that is now saying, my Outlook is not opening, and probably they have a corrupted file. Okay. So employee one did it, then goes an agent or AI that fixes it, done. Then a week after, second employee comes with something. The AI now is always looking back at what things are done. And after the second one or the third one, right, it would say, okay, I'm going to open what we call a problem in ITSM. I'm going to open, I'm going to define it, and I'm going to also execute a morning routine to go through all of the 20,000 employees and see if they have a corrupted file. That's
Wow.
intelligent. Is that
That's incredible.
you're seeing things now? This is a simple thing like a corrupted, right? But think like people normally have similar problems. It's not the computers are becoming very the same, right? It's like they have similar problems that are repeating. And if there's a trend, then you can see the trend very fast. Let's say Mac pushed an update and then there's something new that's hurting some app, right? So the first, the second, the third, the AI already understands it. That's
Yeah.
intelligent and that's autonomous.
So it can actually anticipate, which is something very different, which I think is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you feel this solution is most impactful for large enterprises because the data set of issues and problems is so massive and it can and just kind of run through, as you mentioned, we can run through 20,000 employees quickly. Is that a target audience because there is so many information, the impact is so great because of
Good.
what you just said?
It's a very good question, and I'll surprise you. Is the biggest value coming to the big organizations? Yes. Is that CSAT focus? No. No.
Okay.
Actually, on purpose, our focus is mid market. And because this allows us to bring something that's easy to use and at the same time is impactful for them. I feel the enterprise is a bit crowded, and also every startup that comes in, if they want to generate quickly revenues, they'll try to bring the biggest one, right? And always mid market is like in second thought. So
Yeah.
our focus is to be the number one player around agentic ITSM for and ESM for mid market companies across
Yeah.
the globe.
Well, that makes sense too. Plus the cost of having a human IT workforce at a large enterprise is enormous. There's politics, there's issues around reduction in force and all that versus a company that has limited resources to begin with, but they still have the same problem. I see that's where AI really makes an impact for small company because they can behave like a large company, without needing all the employees to do that. So that's really cool.
When I
Yeah.
was young, I used to think that there's like good employees and bad employees. And as I got older, I felt as if it's not the case that usually it's that it's just difficult to be a successful employee. You come in, you're highly motivated, it's your first time at the job, and it's hard to get knowledge, to get access, to get things working, to understand what you're seeing, to understand what's your goals, to understand the org chart, to understand the strategy, which changes sometimes every 3 months, to understand who are the influencers. Like it is hard. And I think AI comes to help.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You mentioned the strategy, it can change every 3 months. Large corporations, unfortunately, don't usually change strategies every 3 months, but the entrepreneurial mindset, a lot of the people I'm used to dealing with, that's the way they think. And so for you, you're a little bit different, even though you've been in this role since 203 and you're CEO and you weren't the founder of the company. You did start off as an entrepreneur with an entrepreneurial background. We had mentioned you had founded a company that was sold to LivePerson that was Amadesa. And so, what are some of the principles kind of from the startup world? Because I feel like once people do start up a company, they go through that, and even they sell to a large company, they're still an entrepreneur in terms of their mindset always. And that can be something really great for a company that's maybe not that way, that's maybe stuck in a growth pattern because that creativity is brought into it. How was that translated and helped you kind of move the company today?
Yeah, these are more questions related to, right, like how to manage companies and generally what is founder mode, right? I believe that every employee should behave as if they are the CEO. CSAID 7 guiding principles slash values. One of them is we call it CEO mode activated, similar to founder mode. I expect every employee to behave as if they're the CEO of the company. If they're in a meeting and someone is doing something wrong, act on it. If they see something is like there's like dirt on the floor, ask someone or clean it. Or if they think the strategy is incorrect, then come to the CEO and say their opinion. That founder mode creates, instead of one founder, one CEO, 200, 300 people that behave. That the power of it is big. What I got from building my startup was that every place after I went, I behaved as if it's my company, right? I still remember, I'm going to tell a story. I still remember LivePerson acquired my company 2012. And then it's my first week at the job and I'm buying pizza for people. And then the day after, this person, which runs the expense, says, "Who approved you to buy pizza?" And I said, "This is the last time you're asking me who approved me. And that's it." So some sort of, I think the founder mode is always cares about the company and not himself. As long as you care about the company and not yourself, you will always do right.
That's amazing. I love when I was doing a little research for this. I love the 10 principles that you put out in a post recently. And I am going to put the link to that post in the show notes on
Thanks.
YouTube for this because it was so I found it very different than so many of the principles that are kind of standardized amongst many entrepreneurs when we talk about these things. You had so many different ones. Like for example, one was said was simply, it won't be pretty. And I love that idea of like, expect to walk into a fire. We expect to get punched in the nose. We expect to have difficult things. And if we go into it with that battle hardened mentality, then you're kind of up for it all the time. So saying it won't be pretty is a way of just saying problems are just really what we expect all the time. And we're going to solve those. That's the way I interpreted it.
I would say I found this article that's called Nike 1970 guiding principle for the company. And they had these 10 principles, which were shocking. 1970, they thought like a 2026 startup should operate, right? And it's right. It's not pretty. And they had also one which I adore, which is like the first one. By the way, the number one was our business is change. It means that we're in a business of changing. And I'll give an example. In November, I was with the team verifying or aligning the new strategy. Every year, we align different things. And then I went to the CTO, R&D, product guy, and said, "This is the new strategy. You got to move to it," right? And then they
Yeah.
said, "Wait, what does it mean? We need to change the teams. We need to that. We need to that." And first, it's a shock, right? After 2 weeks, they had a plan. After 3 weeks, they started details. After 4 weeks, they've executed a complete reorg. After 6 weeks, they don't even remember the old org. They do not remember how the old org was structured, right?
Wow.
This is the business. The business is change. I'll tell you a change related to AI we're doing now. Everybody talks AI, everybody writes code with AI, but AI is moving from assistant to front seat. That's what's happening, right? And if it's moving to front seat, how are you changing the DNA of the company not to use Cursor or Claude to assist you write code? How are you making your org that nobody writes code, but they write spec-driven development?
Yeah.
Very different. How do you do it to 80 people in 1 month? 80 people in 1 month that they stop writing code. It's extreme,
It's
right?
crazy.
But, and it's never easy, I would say, but AI is taking front seat. Whoever is using that as a weapon is great. And whoever is waiting for the button, I say to clients, they say, "Yeah, we're not ready for AI." I say, "AI is not a button. It's not a button. It's ready? Yes. Click it." Oh, wow. It's not. It's a journey. You start, it start to gather data, you start to iterate, and suddenly you see such intelligence on it. So I think the point around it is change and it's not pretty is the way you run a company.
Yeah. Well, I think the old saying, the evolutionary saying around the survival of the fittest, people really know it really is the survival of the fittest. It's those species that are most adaptable to change will survive. So I think that, I think that applies to human beings, and it certainly applies to ecosystems and business structures and all that. One other one that I thought was really kind of interesting, I don't know what the response is on your values and principles, was live off the land. What does that mean?
In the days of Corona, and even prior to that, the call it the previous bubble. Bubble is not a bad thing; it's a growth.
Yeah,
Um, when people had an idea or wanted to do something, they said, "Okay, I have this great idea. We're going to do it. I need 20 people." Right? So live off land means you're in an island. There's no one. There's no resources. Whatever it is. Now you want to eat, go find and make that happen. Or you want a tent, build a tent. That's what it means. It means that if you have something you have passion on, you have to make it happen.
yeah,
If you really believe in it, maybe it's overnight that you're going to do that, right? I saw a podcast of this guy that I remember which company he started, but for about 6 or months or a year, he worked weekend and nights on top of his job to make that happen. So live off land, that's that. Don't come for resources. Make things happen, and then the resources will align.
I love that. I love that. That's a very intense thing. It also sends a great message to people of empowerment, right? Because you're saying, go out and make it happen. We are, as a company, we're empowering you to do it, but you have to have the resourcefulness and energy to go do that. So there is a sense of empowerment with that philosophy organizationally.
Yes. In the past, take it 10, 15 years ago, you wanted to innovate, you had to leave the company and open something. But today, many companies, they allow a lot of innovation within.
Yeah.
So,
I had a quick question for you because being so immersed in AI for decades, really going back to to the very beginning for you, what is something today that would be a belief that people have about AI that is probably something you would disagree with? That's kind of out there in the public because we all have this perception of what AI is and what it's going to do. But when I talk to entrepreneurial people, a lot of times they're like, "Hey, people think that, but that's not really what's happening." Is there anything out there that would be a common belief that you disagree with where AI is going?
um, it's a good question. Well, I'll see if I have a good example. First, I would say tip to people. There's a lot of people out there that are saying that they're so successful with AI that don't allow it to scare you. They sometimes they talk because they have an incentive to talk the AI story, but not always it's true. So
Yeah,
I think that first, when you see like no developers anymore, I don't think that's the case. So the first tip is I would say AI is entering to our life in a way that makes us so powerful. And it's a huge opportunity for all of us as a human, right? As the human being here, and use that opportunity versus seeing the risk. That's one. And people that are saying you, by the way, we don't need any more, that's not true. It's not happening. Maybe in the future, but like the coming 2, 3 years, it's not happening. But you're not going to write code. You're going to, or syntax, you're just going to write prompts. So I would say just because I've met few people and their CEOs made like big statements. And at the end, when you talk to the employees, they say it's not connected sometimes. But where do I see things moving towards? I think we're moving to a future where is something that's always around you, that's always listens to you and always there to support you in what you're doing. That's coming. That's coming as an employee, and that's coming as a person in your personal life. That's coming. I don't think something can stop that from happening, and that will have a huge impact on us. If I can finally answer, I would say I think it's going to take a bit longer to replace human versus what the world is stating.
that's not what Elon Musk said just a couple days ago. We're gonna have a billion robots out there pretty soon doing everything for us.
I think that within an era, if I would be 22 years old now and I go to
Yeah,
college,
yeah,
I would do more areas of robotics because I think software is getting solved
yeah.
by AI, and then you move to the next phase, which is the mechanics and the robots.
It's so crazy because I would say just a couple years ago, I would just get called, I mean, every day by startup guys saying, we don't have engineering resources, we don't have developers, we have a shortage. We've got to bring people in from all over the world. How can we get all these people? And that quickly, it seems like there is this transition away where AI is doing the coding. It's really going to be, as you said, spec design and prompt engineering. It really makes me think about all these young people that are getting engineering degrees and investing in that. 5 years from now, will that degree have that much value?
It's much harder today for someone finishing computer science to
Yeah.
find a job. When I was in 1998, my first coding job, like they all lined up. There was no resources. It was very different. So yeah, it's much difficult. But the good people will also be good using AI. What I mean, like if you're a great developer, you will be also a great developer plus AI, and you'll be unique on it. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if I would start today my college and degree, I would go more to the mechanics, to the robotics, to the thing. I think this is the next decade. You'll have a robot for dishwashing. You'll have a robot for laundry or for food or for cleaning your. I don't know if it will be
As a
one or
spouse,
both.
a robot spouse.
I don't know. As you see so far, I'm consistent. So I'm married 25 years. I mean, I stay longer in companies, and I'm also consistent.
Well, I'm at 25 years as well, so I think that's a good thing. All this talk about robots coming in and being the emotional support for people that don't have partners and everything, Ex Machina, all this type of movies. We'll have to see what happens.
The tip
But
I would say around it generally is I hear a lot of people worried. And I say, just replace all that worry with getting excited from the opportunity. It's the opposite of what you're thinking. Someone said, what will happen to SaaS if you can write a software so easy? I said, well, if you can write the software so easy, why don't company like SysAid, builds another 20 products in 2 weeks? It's
yeah,
an opportunity. That's not only a risk, right?
yeah, for sure, definitely. Well, that's why you are a classic entrepreneur because you have to think optimistically. That is one of the most common characteristics of every startup entrepreneur I've ever met. You have to be optimistic. Even though it won't be pretty, you're still going to be optimistic every day. So,
It is.
Avi, man, there's just so many great highlights from this podcast about AI, where it's going. I love your enthusiasm. I love your optimism. Obviously, it's a great company. When you raise over $20 million of venture capital, these investors are smart people. They're looking at these opportunities, they're looking at the companies, and they're looking at the leadership, and they're placing their bets on who's going to be successful. They don't just flush money down the toilet. And so I know there's been some great financial backing behind your company. I love your kind of vision for the future and and kind of the principles and the values. I'm just honored that you joined us today, and look forward to seeing where the company's going to go and where you're going to go as a thought leader and a spokesman for kind of this new technology that's developing in the marketplace.
Appreciate the time and the energy also from your side. I hope it was interesting. And I leave you with the mission of what I'm
Okay,
doing,
great, great.
to liberate organizations, just to liberate them by putting AI to work for them and their people. That's my
I love
business.
that. That's why I have this shirt on that says
Liberation.
live free, which is essentially liberation. I love that. What a great way to end it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye
Cheers.
bye.
Thank you. The Startup Innovators Podcast is provided by MatchStar Venture Search. If you're interested in any of our executive roles or need help sourcing world-class talent for your company, check out our website at matchstar.com.